My name is Rubagumya. I'm originally from East Africa. Went to school in New York City. Moved here in 2018. So ever since we opened up Integral Technical Group. It's a language and content localization company, and we focus more on content that for businesses, global businesses that are looking to expand into global markets. So we've been working with a Boston-based company. It's a software company, Content Revenue, and we are helping them extend into Japanese market. They have softwares they are developing, and what we are trying to do is to make sure that their content is resonating with the local audience they are trying to target. Also, in addition to content revenue, we've done, you're gonna excuse me, guys, I did like really a rough PowerPoint when I was seated here. So I thought this is gonna be kind of like a panel discussion setting. But this is gonna be able to give you a little bit of what other companies are doing. If you are developing a product, it's really very important that you create the product in the global market mindset. So whatever you're doing locally here, it needs to be resonating to a global audience. And one thing that I wanted to, once we get into this, sorry, it's all right. So I wanted to make sure, yeah. So as you're developing startups, as you're developing a product, you need to make sure that you have the global markets in your mind, so that whatever you're doing locally here can resonate to the global market you're targeting. One thing I wanted to bring up here is, first of all, when you're designing your logo, your tagline on the website, or anything that is going to be able to use for your marketing materials, you want to make sure that it includes, speaks the language that you need your audience to understand. I was reading a magazine when I was coming here, and many marketing professionals, 70% of marketing professionals, believe that once you personalize your content to the audience you're looking for, you have a high chance of turning those into potential customers. So there's a really huge need in whatever you're doing to be able to think globally, the markets you're looking at. And I'm going to, I have my favorite example here is Dyson, a vacuuming company. They were launching their product here in the US, and one of the marketing flyers was saying, "Nothing sucks like Dyson." That thing, so you can see like it's English, but when you're speaking in Finland, really the word sucks means different from the person here in Atlanta. So it's very, very important that whatever you're doing, you want to make sure you have subject matter expertise of those countries, as the previous presenter was saying. If you're looking at a market in South Korea, you want to make sure that you have subject matter experts who understand the languages, the jargons, the nuances that can be, you don't want to be on that side of Coca-Cola or Dyson with bad marketing flyers going around. So that's one thing I wanted to really make sure that in whatever you're doing, in whatever market you're looking at to expand, is really very important that you have a content subject matter expert who really understands the language, the culture, the nuances, so that you don't mess up your product when you're launching globally. Next slide, please. So prioritizing message, definitely you don't want to be sending in your material, your content that is more over generalized. You want to make sure that if you're designing a product, if it's going to Latin America, you have to have someone, as I mentioned before, that really understand the country, the region where you're targeting your clients. So And how do you do this? So one most important thing is really not to overlook your website visitors. So that analytics of you should be able to collect all those analytics so that you can be using those visitors to know exactly who is visiting more your site and how can you target those to turn them into your clients moving forward as you expand globally. So it's very important that you start really tracking whoever is interacting with your website so that you can start turning those into potential loyal customers moving forward. Next slide, Anna. So as I mentioned before, it's really the local nuances. It does not, even if you speak the same language as I mentioned, you can find that people here in the US, for example, they have different, they speak same language, but they have the different slangs when you move across the region. So that's comes back to the nuances and culture of people you're trying to target for your product. So it comes back to really having a subject matter expert that understand those audiences you're targeting. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, you should be acting locally here, developing the content, developing the gaming, but you should have a lot of more subject matter experts as you expand within the region, but also not only the content, but the images you're using into your content is very important. We have different cultures, we see things differently. So you want to be able to analyze the images you're using on your site so that you don't offend clients that can potentially put you into another global brand. So you need to have someone who can verify your tone, verify your images as you're moving into global markets. So one thing I wanted to really emphasize is that as you're growing, as you're starting up as a startup, let us, come up with a team that can help you bridge, create a bridge, other than like being able to create enemies as you expand. So it's very, very important that you have you create a bridge that's gonna across different boundaries as you developing your content, developing your gaming, projects. I think that would be the last one, the second one. Yeah. So yeah, we are based here in Atlanta. We have a small office in East Africa and also in New York City. So we will be able to, if you have any questions, I'll be here for the next few minutes. And then we'll be able to help you for free and be able to really analyze some data you're looking at as a free consultation. Hopefully we'll be able to help you grow with us. Thank you, guys.
All right. Questions now?
Yeah, thank you.
Any questions? Oh. Yeah, if you go ahead and repeat the questions.
Yes.
Sorry, go ahead. I had a question for you.
Yes, please. Thank you. That's a good question. So I was reading a magazine, the same magazine that was highlighting this percentage of 75% of marketing, professionals. In your area, mostly, content localization, gaming, South Korea definitely is one of the big partner. But also Europe, Eastern Europe is growing. I would say that content localization, content streaming services is expected to be growing to $1 trillion in the next 10 years. So it's a huge opportunity right now to be in, to be able that you can, whatever you're building, you have those services already aligned. There's a lot of consumption of these services in those countries. Europe for sure, South Korea is one of the top one, but definitely Europe would be the one of the region to look at. Yes, sir.
Do you happen to know if any of the generative AI stuff out there for creation, if I were to say interact with one of those and say, hey, I got this logo, is it going to offend people in other regions? Is it good? Do you know anything about the generative AI and how it can help with localization concerns, especially with logos and stuff?
Yeah, we've worked with Google. There's a project we are helping Google, and there's something they're testing out. I'm not sure if it's something that they are, expanding into.
Sorry about that. We suddenly got the volume working that we had.
Okay. So,
Hey, Larry, you're good.
so yeah, to answer your question, I'm sure, as everybody knows, AI is growing like crazy right now. So I'm sure there's something maybe I'm not aware of that can help with the image and be able to be utilized to those regions. But there's the software we're using with Google through a subcontract we're having. They have something very similar that generates images. Probably something you can optimize. Yes. Yes, please.
I just wanted to add something. I love what you're saying about localization and watching jargons, idiomatic expressions, but
Thank you.
also at the most basic level, like, so I was a tech writer at IBM years ago. We were always taught to write for localization and translation, so we always had to write, not having any kind of idiomatic. You have to always say to yourself, does this translate? And then I was on this app called Self-Decode. I shouldn't call it out, but he's saying, watch this DNA chromosome because it's not that accurate. Take it with a grain of salt.
Mm-hmm.
So already I wrote and said, this is not going to work out for the future. Not everybody knows what that means. So I just at the most basic level, we've been talking about sending it to somebody to localize it, maybe keeping it basic to begin with.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, that's one of the dangers of making it so general, is that we're losing out. Our past experience has been that we lose out to turn these frequent visitors to those websites to be turning into real customers. So by having someone who really understands those idioms, as you said, and also not only someone who is there, but someone who is in between, who understands the culture here, but also able to translate almost close to 99% of the accuracy of that translation by using those nuances that are local. So it's very important that you're using your content evaluator, localizer, to be able to switch into those two cultures.
You don't think it can be done the other way, like have basic and then the people take the gist of what you mean and make it really strong, since they know exactly what you mean, make it strong for localization. Doesn't work as well because it's not as rich and multidimensional as if you start with the idiomatic expression or the expression first.
Joe, can you repeat the question for the live streaming audience?
Oh yes, the question is. I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Oh, Sue.
Sue's asking if it would be much more useful to use local experts who are local to translate this content into local nuances and idioms, who they understand more the language. And my response to you, Sue, is that would be the last option if you don't have someone who really understands both cultures, who could be able to smoothly translate by not losing the content, the nuance of those, the content you're translating. So that would be my approach, my best approach.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, please.
So with so much of businesses is like, and especially software businesses, like being like either partially or like fully remote, like what are kind of like really the prerequisites of like at what stage should you seriously consider going abroad if so like physical offices and they're like aren't really a limitation to you?
At what stage, right?
Yeah.
I would say really it would be if you could at the beginning, because by the time you're developing your product, you'll have a lot of feedback as you grow, and it's gonna be really a cross section of feedbacks. Different cultures, different regions. They're gonna be providing you a little bit of feedback here and there, so you can optimize your product depending on where you have much traction. That's what I would definitely, go with that. I know it's going to be a stretch for a startup to, globally be able to have presence in everywhere. But it would be very good if you get so familiar with who's consuming this, content the product you're creating. As I mentioned, South Korea is one of the biggest one. Europe is definitely the second one, but Latin America would be Brazil mostly is where there's a lot of traction to those high-tech products. Hmm.
So I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
You talked about Brazil, which is always a great market for great game market in Brazil. Amazing. One thing we had to do both with our Portuguese and our Spanish translations was to specifically have a European and a South American version. Because even though the language is the same, the
Yes.
idioms, the localization was very different. Is this true for apps and software as well? Certainly for our games, we use weird phrases anyway. But generally for apps, do you recommend this?
So in apps, it wouldn't be so much because of the coding, but definitely if you're marketing your product, your game there, it would be really needed that instead of using a Portuguese-based company, you would be when you're targeting Brazilian market, it would be suitable to use the Brazilian-based because of their very different from Portuguese. The Portuguese spoken in Portugal is quite different.
And you guys handle both cultures?
Yes, we do. We do. Yes, please.
What countries would you say are most open to biotech companies?
But biotech companies would be South Korea, as I mentioned. South Korea definitely, but Europe would be also your second market. Hmm. Oh yes, yes, sir.
She asked about the biotech.
Yes, sir.
I had mentioned earlier.
Hey, come up and grab the mic.
Yeah.
Grab the mic. Folks on the screen can hear you.
And you're absolutely right. That's one reason we're buying a company in South Korea. But also Australia, I was kind of brushed over this. They're offering 43.5 cents per dollar that you spend in Australia on biotech, on research and development, that you can receive back in actual cash. So you spend $1 million, you get 430,000 and change back. And that money can actually be kept in Australia for further development, or you can bring it back to the States. And that's one of the things. We help you with the filings and all that kind of stuff. But South Korea, definitely, yes, was one reason we're going there. And so you do have that the R&D tax incentive. That's just telling me my phone is too far away from my wallet. It's technology. See, it's like, if I lose my phone, it does that. So, but yeah, you can have the chance to get that R&D development. That incentive is really, really great. It helps a lot of small and emerging companies. It makes a huge difference.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, sir.
Another question, do you have any gauge on how more successful a company would be through past analytics and stuff, just metrics that you've been gathering, because they allocated this much towards localization for their product, right? So, hey, we've got comparable companies or comparable products. This guy, or this company chose not to localize. This one had a certain amount of budget for it, and they did this much better. Do you have any gauge on something like that?
The quick answer is that I don't have a specific number, but I can show you clearly the trend. Right now, with the companies that are choosing not to do streaming, for example, streaming services. Take the example of Netflix, for example. Netflix is kicking everyone out of business because they chose to do streaming services, which streaming services Europe is one of the biggest buyer of their product. Well, second to the US, definitely. But it shows that because they went that route of streaming services in different languages, it has definitely grown exponentially their revenue in the past few years. So there's definitely value added when you do open up for global, markets, as Netflix and probably Hulu and Disney, all those they're adding streaming services, not because they are attracting local audience, but also they have that backdoor to the global market. And also, one trend that is really has changed is that we have moved from interacting with the TV, but we do more through our cell phones, as you can tell. So when they do that, all the companies that have moved those products and services to platforms, the apps and everything through the phone, and adding languages, so they are able to really extend more into a wider market. Hopefully, I answered your question. Yeah, cool. Yes, sir.
So kind of a question, like what are some of the reasons that companies sort of don't globalize? Because for example, I know that a lot of Chinese companies do this. For example, there's like WeChat, for example, is very unlocalized. Like you need a Chinese number, phone number, or referral to sign up outside the United States. But theoretically speaking, it should be very easy for a company like Tencent to basically like purchase products out into a global market. But they're consciously choosing
Not.
choosing not to do that. What are some of the reasons that they don't, for example?
Um, Maybe they don't have access to the data we're looking at. That's one simple example I can tell you. But I think it would be naive not to look to global, audiences, because consumer consumption has grown like crazily in the past 10 years. And also access to information has increased. So as the more consumers in the global south, the emerging markets, as they are growing, so you expect companies, mostly big brands, to be able to attract those, buyers. So as the incomes globally increase, I think companies as WeChat, as other companies should be looking into, be able to turn their services to attract a global audience. That's what I would think.
Excellent. Thanks,
Mhm.
Joe.
Thank you,
Really
sir.
appreciate it. Joe will be hanging out here.
Yeah, thank you.
Significant amount of work.